Hey everyone. So, I had someone ask me a question. I decided to just make a whole video out of it. Hammer357mag asked, what are you really prepping for? And I feel like it's a really valuable question that every person who decides that they want to start prepping asks themselves, just because it's a pretty basic one. And for me, I've always been raised to assume the worst of every situation. So for me, prepping isn't really about prepping for a week or prepping for a month. For me, it's prepping for finality. And there's a lot of people out there who have sort of like a small, medium, large scale idea. If you're looking for a good one, full spectrum survival has a fantastic, just in general, channel, but they also have a great outlook as far as things go. Theirs is split up into 3 phases, which I kind of did 4, not because I'm trying to be different or anything, but in my head, when I think of the levels of where you need to prep for, I kind of see there being 4. They stop at a year. They say anything, I believe it's 3 months to a year as like a phase 3, and they consider that the highest that they go on it. For me, my 4 phases are, phase 1 is anything less than 5 days, which for me is no big deal whatsoever. I have a month to a month and a half's worth of food at any given time in my house, just because that's how we shop. We don't go very often. So, and because we don't have an electrical stove, if it's something electrical, I can turn on a gas stove, as long as I know that the power's coming back. A phase 2 for me is 5 days to a month. At that point, food will start getting low for me, but I can still make it. At that point, though, now I have to start thinking about other things, like heating and things like that. A phase 3 for me is anything for 1 month to 1 year. At that point, now I'm going to have to start using a lot of my survival skills, hopefully while still staying in our location, but really at that point, you know that the food is going to run out at some point, and that's also when you start to plan for the idea that the government or whatever has happened may not return. And for me, a phase 4 is anything longer than 1 year. For me, that it's a permanent situation. It's not getting any better. We're on our own completely at this point. Because I kind of feel like if the government can't fix it in 1 year, we have no hope at that point. We're just going to have to rebuild society as we know it. So for me, that's my four phases of kind of how I've seen things. I'm planning phase 4 at all times. I find that while I respect canners and I respect people who do a lot of food prepping, I worry for some of them when all they do is can, and when all they prep for is, anything less than 3 months, because at some point those bins will run out. Those cans will go empty. And while canning, like I said, is very important, because if we no longer have electricity, we have no way to refrigerate meat. And at that point, canning meat is just about your only option, and it's an invaluable tool. You're either going to have to can it, or you're going to have to smoke it. And I feel like learning how to dehydrate without electricity and canning are what are absolutely necessary. But those that's all they ever learn, I worry for them, because you will have to learn how to hunt if at 1 year you no longer have any food and the government is not giving any assistance. What are you going to do? I mean, most of this country, save for a few areas, we do get winter. You can't grow anything. At some point, you're going to have to learn how to snare, trap, hunt, and if you don't have any materials to do any of that either, you're in trouble. And you're probably going to have to rely on somebody else, or you're going to have to suffer with the consequences. So for me, my whole planning and prepping, as much as I will learn these things, it's more about learning the skills and knowing that I can put them into use rather than doing small preps in hope that something comes forward and that the government can save us or that things return to as we know it. I'd rather assume prep for the long haul and only have to worry about a month. So for me, it's always been that way. I never remember a time in my life where I didn't kind of prepare for the worst, and I don't know that it's really a negative attribute, because I'm a pretty positive person, but I just assume the worst in every situation. At one point, I was a tour manager for a band, and we did a USO tour when we were overseas in Afghanistan, Kuwait, and Kazakhstan, and I had an entire suitcase that was essentially prep items. I had a full medical emergency bag filled with everything that I might need, and anything that I felt was kind of necessary, that if at any point we were on our own, 5 guys and 1 girl in a foreign country in the middle of war, if we needed it, I had it in that bag. Knowing full well that at no point were we really ever going to be off a military base, but I wanted to be prepared in case our plane got shot down and we managed to survive, but we were between military bases with no help. I mean, at one point they handed out the MREs for the band to taste, because none of them are military and none of them had ever had any of it, and they wanted to be able to get a chuckle out of watching the guys try to figure out how to make this food up and use the heat pack and everything else that went along with it. And I actually took the MRE and stuffed it in the bag because A, I've eaten way too many MREs in my lifetime and I don't need a single one more, and it gave us a food prep that I wasn't really able to have before, because I wasn't able to put food in that bag until then. I didn't really have any access to a military grade MRE. I mean, I could have gone off to a place where they sell civilian style MREs. They're really expensive, they're not that fantastic, and I'd rather just get a military one. So I got lucky with that, threw it in the bag. That's how I've been my entire life. So Hammer357mag, my prepping will always be long term. Whether or not it's necessary, I don't know that. But I know that at least if it only turns out to be 1 month, I can go, well, at least I was ready. Alright, so have a great day.